welcome to my channel. Subscribe, listen, and enjoy my stories every day. The sun had barely set when Sarah walked through the front door, her high heels clacking against the wooden floor as she dropped her keys onto the table by the entrance. The sound echoed through the quiet house, punctuating the emptiness that had settled between us for weeks. I was sitting in the living room, pretending to be engrossed in a book, but my attention had been on the clock for hours. She was late, 2 hours late, to be exact. "How was it?" I asked, keeping my voice steady as I looked up from the pages that I hadn't really been reading. She hesitated for a moment, her fingers playing with the strap of her handbag. "It was fine," she replied, her voice sounding distant, almost hollow. I closed the book, letting it fall to my lap. "Fine. That's it? You haven't seen those people in years." She shrugged, her movements too casual, too calculated. "It was just a bunch of old memories, you know. Nothing special. But something was off. I could see it in the way she avoided my gaze, in the stiffness of her posture. The spark that usually lit up her eyes when she talked about her past was missing. Instead, there was a shadow, something dark and unreadable. "Sarah, is everything okay?" I pressed, leaning forward. She forced a smile, one that didn't reach her eyes. "I'm just tired, Mark. It's been a long night. I think I'm going to head to bed." I watched her as she walked upstairs, her movements almost robotic. The door to our bedroom closed with a soft click, leaving me alone with my thoughts. I could feel the doubt creeping in, a nagging suspicion that refused to be silenced. It was the same feeling that had been gnawing at me for weeks, ever since she first mentioned the reunion. The night stretched on, the minutes ticking by with agonizing slowness. I tried to push the thoughts away, tried to convince myself that I was being paranoid, that Sarah was just tired like she said. But the nagging feeling wouldn't leave me. Eventually, I made my way to the bedroom. Sarah was already in bed, facing away from me, her breathing steady and even. I slid under the covers beside her, staring at the ceiling as my mind raced. There was no denying it, something had changed. And it wasn't just tonight. It had been building for months, subtle shifts in her behavior, in the way she talked to me, the way she touched me. Or didn't. Sleep didn't come easy that night, and when it did, it was restless, filled with fragmented dreams of Sarah slipping away from me. When I woke up, she was already gone, leaving behind only the faint scent of her perfume on the sheets. Days passed, and the distance between us grew. I tried to reach out, to bring back the warmth that had once filled our home, but it was like grasping at smoke. Sarah had become a ghost, present but not really there, her mind somewhere far away. Then, one evening, everything changed. I was browsing through some websites, looking for a distraction, when a video link caught my eye. It was a forum post, one of those trashy gossip sites that I normally avoided. But the title made my blood run cold. High school reunion scandal, lovers reunited after years apart. I clicked on the link, my heart pounding in my chest as the video began to play. The quality was poor, shaky and grainy, but there was no mistaking what I was seeing. The classroom was dimly lit, the camera barely catching the figures moving within. And then, there they were. Sarah and a man I didn't recognize, both half-naked, their bodies entangled as they laughed and whispered to each other. My stomach churned as I watched them stumble onto one of the old wooden desks, their hands exploring each other with a desperation that made my skin crawl. I couldn't tear my eyes away, even as my world shattered around me. This was real. This was happening. Sarah was cheating on me. And not just with anyone, with someone from her past, someone she had clearly never forgotten. When the video ended, I sat there in stunned silence, the weight of the betrayal pressing down on me until I could barely breathe. My hands were shaking, my vision blurred with rage and disbelief. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to do anything to release the torrent of emotions that was tearing me apart. But I didn't. I just sat there, staring at the screen, at the image of my wife in the arms of another man. The love of my life, the woman I had vowed to spend eternity with, had betrayed me in the worst way possible. When I finally moved, it was with a cold, calculated purpose. I didn't know how long I had been sitting there, but the anger had turned to ice in my veins. I wasn't going to confront her, not yet. No, I was going to make her pay. She had destroyed our marriage, and now I was going to destroy her life. I stood up, my resolve hardening with each step I took. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. Sarah might have thought she could get away with this, but she had no idea what was coming. As I stared at our wedding photo on the wall, a bitter smile twisted my lips. She had made her choice. Now, it was my turn to make mine. And I was going to make sure she regretted it. The next morning, I wake up with a pounding headache, the events of the previous night still fresh in my mind. Sarah is in the kitchen, humming softly as she pours herself a cup of coffee. The sight of her, so calm, so normal, almost makes me sick. How could she act like nothing happened? Like she hadn't ripped my heart out and stomped on it. I force myself to move, pushing the covers off and getting out of bed. The house is too quiet, the kind of quiet that makes every sound stand out. I need to think, to figure out my next steps. But first, I need to face her. I need to see if there's any hint of guilt in those eyes. Morning, I say as I step into the kitchen. My voice comes out steady, but my heart is racing. She glances up and smiles, that same practiced smile she's been giving me for weeks. Morning, Mark. Did you sleep well? Not really, I admit, grabbing a mug and filling it with coffee. I keep my back to her, afraid that if I look at her too closely, I'll lose it. Been having a lot on my mind. She's silent for a moment, and I can feel her eyes on me. Anything you want to talk about? I shake my head, taking a sip of the coffee. The bitterness of it matches the taste in my mouth. Just work stuff. You know how it is. She doesn't press, and I don't offer anything more. The tension in the room is palpable, but Sarah seems oblivious, or maybe she's just that good at pretending. Either way, I can't stand being near her right now. I set my cup down and head for the door. Heading to the office early today, I say over my shoulder. Okay, she replies, her voice light. Have a good day. The irony of her words almost makes me laugh. A good day? Not likely. I drive to the office, my mind spinning with 1,000 different thoughts. The video, the reunion, the man she was with. I need more information. I need to know who he is, what he means to her, and how long this has been going on. I won't let her get away with this. When I reach the office, I'm barely through the door before Jason, my colleague and closest friend, is at my side. He's a tall guy, broad-shouldered, with a laid-back attitude that usually makes him the life of the office. But today, I'm in no mood for his usual banter. Morning, Mark, he says, clapping a hand on my shoulder. You look like hell. Rough night? I give him a tight smile. You could say that. He raises an eyebrow, clearly picking up on my mood. Want to grab a coffee and talk about it? You look like you could use a friend. For a moment, I consider brushing him off, but then I realize that I do need someone to talk to, someone I can trust. Jason's been my friend for years. He's the one person who's always had my back. Yeah, I say, nodding. I think I could use that. We head to the small cafe across the street, a quiet place where we can talk without being interrupted. As soon as we're seated with our drinks, Jason leans forward, his expression serious. So, what's going on? He asks. You're not yourself today. I stare at my coffee, the steam rising from the cup in slow, swirling tendrils. How do I even begin to explain this? Sarah went to her high school reunion last night, my voice low. And when she came back, something was off. I could feel it, but I couldn't put my finger on it. Jason listens, his brow furrowing. What do you mean, off? Like, she was acting weird. I nod. Yeah. She was distant, like her mind was somewhere else. I didn't think much of it at first, but then, I hesitate, the words sticking in my throat. Then I found a video online. Jason's eyes widen. A video? What kind of video? I take a deep breath, trying to steady myself. It was her. With another guy. At the reunion. Jason's face hardens, his easygoing demeanor vanishing in an instant. Are you serious? That's messed up, man. What the hell? I know, I say, my voice barely above a whisper. I didn't want to believe it, but there it was, right in front of me. She was cheating on me, Jason. And she didn't even have the decency to hide it. He's silent for a moment, letting the weight of my words sink in. What are you going to do? I shake my head, running a hand through my hair. I don't know. Part of me wants to confront her, to scream and shout and demand answers. But another part of me wants to hurt her the way she's hurt me. Jason leans back in his chair, his expression unreadable. You've got to be careful, Mark. This is a slippery slope. Whatever you do, you can't let this consume you. I nod, knowing he's right but still feeling the anger burning in my chest. I need to know who this guy is. I need to know why she did this. Jason thinks for a moment, then nods slowly. Okay. Let's figure this out. We'll track down who this guy is and get some answers. But you've got to promise me that you'll keep a cool head. Don't do anything you'll regret. I promise, I say, though I'm not sure if I believe it myself. I just need to know. We spend the rest of the morning digging through social media, searching for any clues that might lead us to the man in the video. It's frustrating work, but eventually, we find a lead. A photo from the reunion, posted by one of Sarah's old classmates. In the background, partially obscured, is the man from the video. There he is, Jason says, pointing at the screen. That's him. I stare at the photo, a sense of cold satisfaction settling over me. Now I have a face. Now I have a target. What's his name? I ask, my voice steady. Jason scrolls through the comments, looking for any mention of the man. Finally, he finds it. Tom, he says. Tom Reynolds. The name sounds familiar, but I can't place it. It doesn't matter. All that matters is that I know who he is now. Thanks, Jason, I say, my mind already working out my next move. Mark, be careful, he warns again, his tone serious. Don't let this take over your life. Whatever you do, make sure it's worth it. I nod, but my mind is elsewhere. Tom Reynolds. The man who has destroyed my marriage. The man who has taken what was mine. As I leave the cafe, a new resolve settles over me. Sarah thinks she can betray me and walk away unscathed. But she's about to learn just how wrong she is. The game has only just begun. The drive back home feels longer than usual, each minute stretching out as I turn over everything Jason and I uncovered. Tom Reynolds. The name echoes in my mind, a bitter reminder of the man who had the audacity to touch what was mine. My fingers tighten around the steering wheel, the knuckles whitening as I fight the urge to speed. I'm not ready to face Sarah yet, not until I've figured out what comes next. As soon as I walk through the door, the familiar scent of Sarah's cooking hits me, something Italian, maybe lasagna. The kind of meal she makes when she wants to make things right, as if a home-cooked dinner can erase the distance between us. The thought almost makes me laugh. Mark? Sarah calls out from the kitchen. Her voice is light, too light, like she's trying too hard. You're home early. I drop my keys on the table, taking a deep breath to steady myself. Yeah, finished up at the office quicker than I expected. She appears in the doorway, wiping her hands on a dish towel, a forced smile on her face. I made dinner. I thought we could have a nice evening together, just us. The sight of her standing there, pretending everything is fine, makes my blood boil. But I push the anger down, forcing myself to play along, at least for now. Sounds good, I say, my tone flat. Her smile falters, just for a second, but she recovers quickly. Great. It'll be ready in a few minutes. I nod, watching as she turns back to the kitchen. The urge to confront her, to demand answers, is almost overwhelming, but I can't do it yet. Not until I know more, not until I've figured out exactly how I'm going to make her pay. We sit down to dinner, the silence between us thick and heavy. Sarah tries to make small talk, asking about my day, but I keep my answers short, giving her nothing to work with. The tension is palpable, but she pushes on, clearly desperate to maintain the illusion of normalcy. So, I was thinking, she says, her voice hesitant, maybe we could go away for a weekend. Just the two of us. Get out of the city, spend some time together. I look up at her, the suggestion so absurd it almost makes me laugh. She wants to play the role of the devoted wife now. After what she's done. I don't think that's a good idea, I say, my voice cold. Her eyes widen, a flicker of fear crossing her face. Why not? I thought we could use some time together. I set my fork down, leaning back in my chair. Time together won't fix what's broken, Sarah. She flinches, her face paling. What do you mean? I hold her gaze, my expression unreadable. I mean, there are things we need to talk about. Things that can't be swept under the rug. She's silent, her hands trembling slightly as she picks at her food. She knows, I can see it in her eyes. She knows that I know something, but she's not sure how much. Good. Let her sweat. Like what? She finally asks, her voice barely above a whisper. I stare at her for a long moment, letting the silence stretch out until it's almost unbearable. Like the reunion, I say slowly, watching her reaction closely. Her eyes widen, panic flashing across her face before she quickly tries to mask it. The reunion, she repeats, her voice shaky. What about it? I lean forward, my gaze piercing. How was it, Sarah? Really? She swallows hard, her eyes darting away from mine. It was fine. Like I said before. Just fine. I press, my tone sharp. Nothing special. Nothing memorable. She's visibly shaking now, her hands clutching the edge of the table. Why are you asking me this, Mark? I don't answer, just continue to stare at her, waiting for her to crack. The silence between us is suffocating, the air thick with tension. Finally, she looks up at me, her eyes wide with fear. Mark, what's going on? She asks, her voice trembling. Why are you doing this? I stand up slowly, pushing my chair back. I think you know why, Sarah. She shakes her head, tears welling up in her eyes. No, I don't. Please, just talk to me. I walk around the table, moving closer to her. She shrinks back in her chair, her breathing shallow and rapid. Who is he, Sarah? I ask, my voice low and dangerous. Who's the man from your past that you just couldn't stay away from? She gasps, her hand flying to her mouth as the tears start to fall. Mark, please, it's not what you think. Don't lie to me. I shout, slamming my hand down on the table. The force of it makes the dishes rattle, and Sarah jumps, her eyes wide with terror. I saw the video, I say, my voice deadly calm. I know what you did. I know who you were with. Her face crumples, and she breaks down, sobbing uncontrollably. I'm sorry, Mark, she chokes out between sobs. I'm so sorry. It was a mistake, I swear. I didn't mean for it to happen. A mistake. I scoff, my anger boiling over. A mistake is spilling coffee on your shirt, Sarah. What you did was a choice. You chose to betray me, to humiliate me. She shakes her head, tears streaming down her face. No, Mark, please, you have to believe me. I didn't want to hurt you. It was just. Just what? I snap, leaning in close. Just some fun. Just a trip down memory lane. It was a moment of weakness, she cries, her voice desperate. I was confused, and seeing him again brought back all these old feelings, and I just lost control. I stare at her, my heart pounding in my chest. How long has this been going on? She shakes her head frantically. It was just that one night, I swear. I haven't seen him in years, and I don't ever want to see him again. Please, Mark, you have to believe me. I step back, my mind racing. One night. She's claiming it was just one night. But can I believe her? Can I trust anything she says now? Before I can respond, the doorbell rings, cutting through the tension like a knife. Sarah jumps, her eyes wide with fear. Who could that be? She whispers, her voice trembling. I don't answer, just turn and head for the door. I'm still seething with anger, and the last thing I need is an interruption right now. But as I open the door, my breath catches in my throat. Standing on the porch is Tom Reynolds. He's exactly as I remember him from the video, tall, broad-shouldered, with a confident smirk that makes my skin crawl. Seeing him in the flesh, on my doorstep, makes the rage inside me explode. You've got some nerve showing up here, I growl, stepping forward until I'm inches from his face. Get the hell off my property before I do something we'll both regret. But Tom doesn't back down. Instead, he crosses his arms over his chest, his smirk widening. I'm not here to cause trouble, Mark. I just want to talk. Talk. I spit, my fists clenching at my sides. You think I want to talk to you? After what you did? He shrugs, his demeanor infuriatingly calm. I figured you'd want to hear my side of the story. There's nothing you can say that I want to hear, I snap, barely able to contain my fury. Now get out of here before I call the police. Mark, wait, Sarah's voice calls out from behind me, shaky and filled with fear. I turn to see her standing in the hallway, her face pale and tear-streaked. Please, just let him say what he has to say. Then he'll leave. I promise. I glance back at Tom, my blood boiling, but something in Sarah's voice makes me pause. I don't trust her, and I sure as hell don't trust him, but if this is what it takes to get some answers, then so be it. Fine, I say through gritted teeth. But make it quick. Tom nods, stepping inside as I close the door behind him. He glances at Sarah, who avoids his gaze, then turns back to me. I'm not here to make excuses, he begins, his tone suddenly serious. What happened at the reunion was a mistake. It shouldn't have happened, and I regret it. But you need to understand, Mark, that Sarah and I. Don't you dare try to justify this, I interrupt, my voice shaking with anger. I don't care what history you two have. You had no right to touch her. He holds up his hands in a placating gesture. I know, and I'm not trying to justify it. But I think you should know the full story. I cross my arms, my jaw clenched. You've got 5 minutes. Start talking. Tom glances at Sarah again, who looks like she's about to break down completely. Then he takes a deep breath and begins. Sarah and I were together in high school, but it was more than just a teenage fling. We were in love, or at least we thought we were. But things ended badly, and we went our separate ways. I moved on, or tried to, but when I saw her again at the reunion, it was like all those old feelings came rushing back. I grit my teeth, hating every word that comes out of his mouth. And that gives you the right to destroy my marriage? No, he says quickly. It doesn't. I know that. But you need to understand that what happened wasn't about you. It was about us, about unfinished business. I'm not saying that makes it right, but it's the truth. I can barely contain my rage. You expect me to believe that? That it was just some closure you were looking for? Tom shakes his head. No. I expect you to be angry, and you have every right to be. But I'm here to tell you that it's over. I'm not going to contact Sarah again. You won't see me, won't hear from me. I'm walking away, for good this time. Sarah sobs behind me, and I feel a surge of both anger and pity. Anger that she let this happen, and pity that she's been reduced to this, a woman caught between two men, neither of whom she can face. And I'm supposed to take your word for that? I ask, my voice dripping with sarcasm. Yes, Tom says firmly. You have my word. I know that doesn't mean much to you right now, but it's all I have to offer. I stare at him, my mind a whirlwind of emotions. Everything in me wants to lash out, to make him suffer for what he's done. But then I look at Sarah, her face twisted with pain and regret, and I realize that this isn't just about revenge. This is about finding a way forward, whatever that might look like. Get out, I finally say, my voice cold and hard. And if I ever see you again, I won't be responsible for what happens. Tom nods, his expression serious. You won't. I promise. He turns to leave, but then pauses at the door, looking back at me. For what it's worth, Mark, I'm sorry. Truly. I don't respond, just watch as he walks out of my house and out of my life. The door closes behind him with a final, echoing thud, and I turn back to Sarah. She's collapsed in a chair, her face buried in her hands, sobbing uncontrollably. I want to comfort her, to tell her that we'll get through this, but the words won't come. I'm too raw, too hurt, too angry. Instead, I stand there, watching her cry, feeling more lost and alone than I've ever felt in my life. Mark, she whispers through her tears, her voice barely audible. Please, don't leave me. But I don't know if I can stay. Not after this. I turn and walk away, leaving her sobbing in the kitchen as I head upstairs, shutting the door behind me. The weight of the betrayal, the hurt, and the anger settles over me like a suffocating blanket. I don't know what the future holds. All I know is that nothing will ever be the same again. The following days are a blur of tension and silence. Sarah tries to talk to me, to explain, to apologize, but I avoid her at every turn. I can't bring myself to look at her without feeling the anger and betrayal boiling up inside me. I bury myself in work, spending long hours at the office and coming home late, when I know she'll already be in bed. It's easier that way, easier than facing the reality of what our marriage has become. But despite my attempts to avoid the situation, it's always there, lurking in the back of my mind, the image of her with Tom, the sound of her voice when she begged me not to leave. The more I think about it, the more I realize that this isn't something we can come back from. The trust is gone, shattered beyond repair. And without trust, what's left? One evening, about a week after Tom's visit, I come home to find Sarah sitting in the living room, a suitcase at her feet. She looks up as I walk in, her eyes red and swollen from crying. Mark, we need to talk, she says, her voice trembling. I stop in the doorway, my heart pounding in my chest. What is it, Sarah? She takes a deep breath, struggling to hold herself together. I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I know that what I did was unforgivable. I know that I've hurt you in ways that I can't even begin to apologize for. I stay silent, waiting for her to continue. I think it's best if I leave, she says, her voice breaking. I've packed some things, and I'll stay with my sister for a while. Maybe some time apart will help us figure out what we want. A part of me wants to feel relief, to be free of the weight that's been crushing me since the night of the reunion. But another part of me, a deeper, darker part, feels only anger. How dare she decide to leave now, after everything she's done? How dare she think that time apart could fix what's broken? And what do you want, Sarah? I ask, my voice cold. She hesitates, her eyes filling with tears. I don't know. I just know that I can't stay here, not like this. I love you, Mark, but I've made a mess of everything, and I don't know how to fix it. Maybe you can't fix it, I say harshly, the words slipping out before I can stop them. She flinches, the pain in her eyes cutting through me like a knife. Maybe you're right, she whispers. But I have to try. We stand there in silence, the weight of everything unsaid hanging heavy in the air. Finally, she picks up her suitcase, her hand trembling as she grips the handle. I'll go, she says, her voice barely audible. But if you ever want to talk, if you ever want to try to work through this, I'll be there. I don't respond, just watch as she walks past me, her footsteps echoing through the empty house. The door closes behind her with a soft click, and suddenly, the silence is deafening. I sink onto the couch, my mind spinning with everything that's happened. I should feel something, anger, sadness, relief, but all I feel is numb. Numb and exhausted. Hours pass, the night deepening around me. I don't know how long I sit there, staring at nothing, lost in my thoughts. But eventually, I force myself to get up, to move, to do something other than wallow in the wreckage of my life. I walk upstairs to the bedroom, the emptiness of the house pressing in on me. I'm halfway through the door when I stop, something catching my eye. It's a piece of paper, folded neatly and placed on my pillow. My heart skips a beat as I pick it up, unfolding it with shaking hands. It's a letter, written in Sarah's neat handwriting. The words blur in front of my eyes as I start to read. Mark. If you're reading this, it means I've already left. I didn't have the courage to say these things to your face, but I couldn't leave without telling you the truth. The whole truth. I lied to you, Mark. About everything. About Tom, about the reunion, about who I really am. I wasn't faithful to you, not just at the reunion, but long before that. I've been seeing Tom for months. It wasn't just one night, it was many nights. And it wasn't just about old feelings or closure, it was something much deeper, something I can't even begin to explain. But you deserve to know the truth, even if it destroys whatever is left between us. I'm not the person you thought I was. I've made so many mistakes, and I've hurt you in ways that can never be forgiven. I don't expect you to understand, and I don't expect you to ever forgive me. But I needed to tell you the truth, because you deserve at least that. I'm sorry, Mark. For everything. For the lies, the betrayal, the pain I've caused you. I wish I could go back and undo it all, but I can't. All I can do is leave, and hope that one day you can find it in your heart to move on, to find happiness again, without me. Sarah. The letter slips from my hands, floating to the floor as the full weight of her words crashes down on me. Months. She's been lying to me for months, living a double life while I was blissfully unaware. The betrayal is deeper than I ever imagined, cutting through me like a knife. But there's something else in the letter, something that doesn't make sense. If she's been with Tom for months, Why did he show up at the house, claiming it was just one night? Why did he act like he was walking away for good, like it was over? The pieces don't fit, and the more I think about it, the more I realize that there's something else going on, something Sarah hasn't told me. I grab my phone, scrolling through the contacts until I find the number I'm looking for. Jason answers on the second ring. Mark? What's going on? It's late. Jason, I need your help, I say, my voice shaking. I need to find out more about Tom. There's something off about all of this. There's a pause on the other end of the line, then Jason sighs. Mark, I think you need to let this go. You've been through enough. No, I interrupt, the desperation in my voice surprising even me. I can't let it go. Not until I know the truth. Jason hesitates, then finally relents. All right. I'll see what I can dig up. But you need to be careful, Mark. You're playing with fire here. I hang up, my mind racing with possibilities. There's more to this story, and I'm not going to rest until I've uncovered every last detail. It doesn't take long for Jason to call me back, his voice tense. Mark, you're not going to believe this. I did some digging on Tom, and it turns out he's not who he says he is. What do you mean? I ask, my heart pounding. He's not some old high school flame, Mark. He's a con artist. He targets women, gets close to them, and then disappears with whatever he can get his hands on, money, valuables, anything. The room spins around me as I process what Jason is saying. You're telling me Sarah was involved with a con artist? That she was part of some scam? Jason's voice is grim. It looks that way. And from what I've found, she's not the first. He's done this to other women, and once he's got what he wants, he moves on. My mind races, the pieces finally clicking into place. The lies, the secrecy, the sudden decision to leave, it all makes sense now. Sarah wasn't just unfaithful, she was being used, manipulated by a man who was only after one thing. But that doesn't change the fact that she lied to me, that she betrayed me in the worst possible way. It doesn't change the fact that our marriage is over, destroyed by a web of lies and deceit. I hang up the phone, the weight of everything pressing down on me. Sarah is gone, and with her, any hope of salvaging what we once had. But as I stand there, alone in the empty house, I realize that I don't want to salvage it. I don't want to try to fix what's broken. Because some things can't be fixed. I walk to the bedroom, grabbing the letter from the floor and tearing it in half, then into quarters, until it's nothing but a pile of shredded paper. It's over. All of it. The lies, the betrayal, the pain. I'm done. As I turn off the lights and head to bed, I feel a strange sense of peace settling over me. The anger is still there, the hurt still raw, but there's also a sense of finality, of closure. Sarah is gone, and she's never coming back. And as I lie in the darkness, I know that our paths will never cross again. Because I hate her. I hate her for what she's done, for the lies she told, for the life she destroyed. And I'll carry that hatred with me, not as a burden, but as a reminder. A reminder that trust is fragile, that love can be a lie, and that some betrayals are too deep to ever forgive. And with that realization, I finally allow myself to sleep, knowing that when I wake up, the past will be behind me. Forever.